Hello,
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. Thank you for taking the time to do an interview with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the offer.
Yeah, no problem. So, I help run a website called Damnation Vault with my best friend, and we like to honor our vets because without them, none of this is possible and stuff. But so, what does it mean to you to support our vets?
To support the vets.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a my dad's a vet. My dad's a vet of the Vietnam War in particular,
Oh,
as well as my both my grandfathers fought in World War II. So yeah, it's one of those things. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around it, to
right,
an extent, unless you're someone who's actually been involved in the military and like really like know what all that goes into it and how hard it is to be away from home and how scary the whole thing is, especially at a time of war or time of any sort of conflict. So yeah, I think it's incredible. I think it's incredibly brave, heroic, honorable thing to do if you can step up to the plate and do that. I mean, me
right.
personally, I feel like I you know I do my fighting from behind the guitar and
Yeah,
the entertaining side of things. I'm not really one to pick up a gun and try to hurt anyone if I don't have to.
right.
That's I don't know if I'm the guy for that. But I wouldn't be able to do what I do and as safely as we do if it wasn't for the armed forces. So it's much appreciated.
Right, exactly. So to me, music heals everything. It helps me with my depression and my anxiety. How has music helped you with mental health?
Um, I guess it's kind of like a way to exfoliate your mind, your emotions, doing it audibly. Music, so many different, I mean, any emotion really can be created and felt from music.
Right.
So I guess, especially, um, like whether it be something you got on your mind or maybe there's a hard time that you're going through. Sometimes the only way to kind of get through that or feel your way through it is just to write lyrics or write some
Right.
melodies that kind of complement that feeling. And you can even hear, and at least in my band's career, you can almost kind of feel where we're at in our personal lives based on the lyrical content
Yeah.
and based on even just the vibe of the way the music sounds, not even just the lyrics, but just the
Yeah.
melodies chosen, the chords that are chosen, the tempos that are used, and the instrumentation that is used to create, dark feelings or happy feelings or excitement or energy.
Right.
But yeah, it's yeah, music's been a huge part of music, especially when I was younger, and really getting into it initially when I was, in my teenage years and in the beginning stages of Atreyu. It was, like, you're such an emotional person, especially when you're in your teenage years. It's such a
Yeah.
transitional stage of life. You're figuring out who you are and what everything is and why things do and don't happen. And so yeah, music, it's just kind of it's one of those things when you hear other bands doing stuff, um, or saying things that make you like feel like, oh wow, like there's other people in the same kind of like part of the world as me, like not necessarily physically the same part of the world, but like as far as your interests and things like that, that can relate, that understand, that have been through similar things that you've been through or felt certain things. And um, when you think of things like when it comes to like therapy and stuff, a lot of times people feel really good getting to talk to someone that's like been through something like they've been through, whatever that may be, for better or for worse, and can relate. And you're like, oh, okay, like so it's not just me feeling these feelings, or
Right.
other people feel this too. So it's yeah, it's a really cool thing.
Right. It is. It really is. Speaking about mental health, the last year and a half has been a struggle to lots of people. How did the pandemic affect your life?
Um, for me, especially being a musician, and I have several businesses also outside of being a musician that all collectively fuel my life. They fuel all my creative, itches that I need to scratch,
Yeah.
as well as they pay my bills. Um, but during the pandemic, it was kind of it was a big adjustment, having to kind of figure out like a different way of survival. You kind of go into
Right.
survival mode And for my band, of course, everything just shut down. So it was just, you just kind of stop, and you're like, okay, like, which is a great time to write. We kind of used
Yeah.
turning lemon into lemonade kind of thing. So for that, it was like, all right, what a perfect time to write a record. Let's use this, this energy that's going on right now. Even if it's something bad, let's take that bad and turn it into
Right.
something awesome.
Exactly.
And then as far as like my other side of my other businesses that I do are all in the merchandising world. We make a lot of stuff for bands, like band merch and um, clothing lines and things of the such. So with that being said, a lot of what we do is created overseas in China or even in Mexico. We import a lot of our goods and apparel and things that we create. And when merchandising kind of shut down initially, as far as bands not needing anything, or a lot of our clientele that we were working with not needing what we were doing, we're like, well, what can we do in this
Right.
time with what it is that we with the abilities and the that we have, as well as the accessibility to um, being able to import goods. So we turned all our focus onto importing like masks and gloves and bottles and hand sanitizer, just whatever people needed. We were just like,
Yeah.
if it was hard to get. So we're like, if we can get it, let's just get it into the country and get it out there. And it helps us sustain our business, as well as helps everybody in our country, get what they need to get through this thing.
Right. That's really awesome. Glad you
Yeah,
could
it's
help.
yeah, it was cool. I mean, it was a win-win situation, and
Right.
it also kind of showed us a little bit more of like what we were made of, as far as like, wow, I didn't, we never thought we'd run into a situation like this, and to be able
Right.
to again turn lemons into lemonade in one way or another was really interesting, and it actually helped grow our business in the big picture. Everything turned online, so
Yeah.
we ended up starting a fulfillment company out of what all of this, because there was such demand to have stuff shipped out to people that were like, oh, I guess there's a whole other business opportunity for us here to
Right.
assist with just getting stuff to people.
Yeah. It's awesome. So with things slowly going back to normal and the return of concerts, what's the most positive aspect you've seen so far, and what do you think will be when you're on tour again?
Human interaction.
Oh
I
yeah.
think it's human interaction. I mean, everyone. I'm a introverted, extroverted person where I like my alone time, but I like to be
Yeah.
around people. I think it's really important for people to interact with other people, especially different types of people too. Um, I feel like the world would be a better place if everybody got to travel more and meet
Yeah.
people from different cultures and the different ways of life and stuff like that, different ages, everything.
Right.
And try everybody's shoes on for a day, like, and then see what it's like, because it really does give you a better, well-rounded idea of what human beings are like in a whole, and not kind of having a closed-minded perspective
Right.
of certain things, which a lot of people, and not even just America. I mean, Americans are very guilty as charged as being closed-minded and being very like America and screw everything else.
Yeah.
Not everybody, but there's a lot of the world sees this that way, and it is
Yeah.
true to certain extents. Other countries can be the same way too, feeling like
Right.
their country is it, and it's a human thing
Yeah.
to an extent. It's a lot of it's built out of fear and just being uneducated.
Right.
Not
Yeah.
even that people are stupid, but uneducated. The fact that they've never experienced certain things, or
Yeah.
talked with other people, or again walked a day in their shoes. Like, you just don't really understand what you're talking about or what's going on. So I'm really excited just to get out there and myself, but as well as everybody else, to be able to, going to shows is a, and festivals, things of the such, is such a cool way to interact with people. Especially because the second you walk in there, you know that you have at least one thing in common with all these
Right.
people. You're
Yeah.
all at this event that you all chose to go to, that you all saw that was enticing. And, when you walk in, it's like, okay, this is like kind of one big family, like we're
Right.
all here
Yeah.
to do the same thing. We're all at the same picnic. Um, it's super cool, so I think that's a really important thing for everyone to get to engage with each other and have that social aspect that's been,
Right.
kind of taken away for a while here with this pandemic madness.
Right. Yeah. It's nice to see things finally kind of going back to normal slowly.
Yeah.
I saw that you guys have a fall tour coming up with Crown the Empire, Tetrarch, Sal, and Defying Decay. Are you excited to go on the road with them?
Yeah, I mean, all these, it's kind of especially for anyone who listens to the Sirius XM channel, Octane. This is like a very Octane tour.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
without being like even intentionally being that way. Just all
Yeah.
these bands are in regular rotation on Octane, and it's cool. I mean, it's a lot of these bands are kind of up and coming bands. Some have been around for a little bit, some have
Yeah.
been are a little bit newer. Um, Defying Decay is straight up from Thailand. I mean, like flying
Wow.
over here from Thailand to play this tour. So that's a
Wow,
really
that's
neat thing.
crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's such a cool thing to have. I think it's, to see bands come from a country like that over to
Right.
here and playing a similar style of music and stuff like that, and seeing their take on it and what they've ingested from their being on that part of the world, and their perspective of this style of music is really cool to bring to the table.
Right.
And for us, we've never toured with any of these bands before. Well, Crown the Empire, maybe. No, I don't think so, actually. We know them, but we've never. I don't. Well, actually, no. I think we did like a Warp tour with them. To be fair, they were on a Warp tour, but never like us tour, like
Yeah.
them, us and them tour kind of thing. Where it's a little bit more intimate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is our first. We're doing a couple little other things here and there before then. We're going out with Non-Point and Tetrarch, and as well as doing some stuff with 18 Visions and Dragged Under and A Dying Wish. Just like a week here, a week there kind of things that kind of are basically to tie us in to some festivals that we're doing.
Yeah.
A lot of times you're like, oh, instead of just flying out and playing one festival, it's like, let's fly out and play a couple shows before the festival to make it more worthwhile, making that
Right.
journey, as well as like to just get warmed up. So you're not just going in raw to a festival after not playing for almost 2 years and hoping things go good.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So you guys just released your newest album, Baptized, a couple months ago. What was it like creating an album without the former vocalist Alex?
Well, it was interesting because it was a combination of working with him and not working with him.
Yeah.
He was there for the first like half of the process. So he was involved in a lot of the lyrics on most of the songs, not all of them, because there was like 4 or 5 songs that were written post him parting ways with the band. So that was kind of, we were on our own for that aspect of it. But it was kind of exhilarating a little bit, like, I mean, as much as it was like, oh man, this is going to be so different. We've been doing this for so many years. Like, what is this going to be like? It kind of just felt like a fresh start a little bit. Like, we're like, all right, if we kind of have to look at it that way. Like, this is a fresh start. This is our, the next chapter of Atreyu, and we're very capable. The 4 of us are very capable of handling everything that needs to be done as far as old responsibilities that were brought to the table from Alex, as well as, any new things that we want to bring to the table that we weren't doing before when Alex was in the band. Especially a lot of things vocally, like on, for instance, the song, which was the last song that we wrote. It's called Strange Powers of Prophecies. It's the first song on the album. It's entirely a cappella. I mean, everything you hear is a vocal on there's no instrumentation on there. Even the didgeridoo sounding thing at the beginning is a vocal that we recorded and just kind of like tuned it down so that it just sounds really low and like a didgeridoo. But what's interesting about that song, there's several aspects about it that we've never done on any album that I don't think any band has ever done, to be honest, which is kind of neat. The first thing, which is not something bands have never done, but is something that we've never done, is that we did an entirely a cappella song. So for people that don't know what a cappella means, that means all vocals. It's just singing. There's no instrumentation. And everybody in our band sang on that song. Every harmony that you hear, it's not just like, oh, Brandon's going to sing the whole thing and just layer his vocals up and make it sound cool. You can hear all of us went in there and took turns at singing different layers of the harmonies, and all contributed to writing it. So we want it to be a thing where like all of us, this is us, all of us, we're starting off this new chapter. We're like, this is all of us coming at you singing like we've never have before, in like the style of like Queen or something, with how many harmonies and epic things that are going on in there. And then the thing that I don't think any band has ever done before, as far as I know of, is that this is kind of an Easter egg actually on the album. So the lyrics of Strange Powers of Prophecy, every lyric is a line taken from one of every single song on the album. So it wasn't able to be written until the whole album was written. Then, so it was the last song that was written. And then we basically just pulled, key lines from each song and put them in a strategic order to make the song. So as you go through the song, you'll start noticing like, wait a minute, I heard that lyric in the first song. And you'll notice that in every single song. And then especially the more you listen to it, you'll start to kind of pick it up. And when you go back and listen to the first song, it's like, Oh wow, it all makes sense now.
Wow, that's crazy. That's awesome
Yeah,
though.
yeah, it's super fun.
I have to go back and listen to it
Yeah, treat yourself.
again. Um, did you guys ever think you'd be releasing an album without him? Without Alex?
No, it's just one of those things that kind of like evolved to that point. More recently, I think it's something that, in the back of our minds and our hearts,
Yeah.
we thought, you know, felt that it could happen, but like the reality of it actually happened never really, I
Yeah.
don't, it's kind of like, waiting for someone to die or something like that. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, it could happen, eventually, but like, I just, like, we're just going to hope it doesn't. And then it just got to a point where it was just kind of like, it's time.
Yeah.
Um, but, yeah, it's a little, there's elements like about it that are scary just because it is so new. And we have been this, it's a core member of our band that we've had in the band
Yeah.
for 22 years. But it's also like, after over 22 years of doing it, we're kind of like, you know what, like we got through 22 good, great,
Right.
fun years. Like it's time to move on and see what the next 22 years will be like.
Right. Well, at least you guys are able to still go. Like some bands end whenever they don't have their vocalist anymore.
Yeah. I mean, we're very fortunate that, we had three almost with Porter, our bass player Porter, vocalists, Brandon being probably the most prominent one in the band as far as,
Yeah.
especially him coming up front now. His vocal was kind of like the sun, coming out through the clouds of darkness sort of thing, being the big choruses and everything. So we're in a fortunate position that losing Alex, that it's not like you're going to hear this completely new
Yeah.
voice in there, excuse me, that's totally foreign. We're like, we have to go out and hire a new singer, where everyone's like, oh wow, this doesn't sound like Atreyu at all
Right.
anymore. It's like it's still the same vocalist, just the aggressive vocals have been moved over to Porter, who was already doing them since the Death Grip on Yesterday, which is our third full length album back in 2006 came out. He's been on, even having like solo parts vocally on there since then. And even Lead Sails Paper Anchor on, he started doubling a lot of Alex's vocals to kind of thicken them up on the album. So it's again, it's another familiar voice
Right.
that's it's not too foreign. And then even me stepping in a little bit on there, we have a song called Stay that's the second to last song on the album, and I get to sing the bridge of the song as me just singing by myself, because one of those things, like I've always sang the harmonies. Like if you watch
Yeah.
this live, I'm the harmony guy. I'm the guy that kind of backs up Brandon on everything. And there's a lot of stuff that Alex wasn't comfortable doing live, so I would just do it, when it came to some of the singing stuff, so that he could do whatever he needed to do. So yeah, we're able to kind of try a lot of new things and still at the same time have that familiar sound and feel without kind of completely going astray.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So you're a founding member of Atreyu. Were you in any other bands before Atreyu?
I was in a band called Retribution,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah, a little cassette tape. This conveniently works out. I'll even show you here while we're going at it. So this band I started with Alex initially, and then Brandon back in the day. You can see some pictures of us here.
Oh, that's crazy.
There's
You
Brandon,
guys
you
were
got
so
Alex
young.
and myself. Yeah, this was released in
Oh
1997,
my
I think.
God.
Long time ago, yeah. And then so yeah, I mean that was kind of the only other, I mean I've done other little things here and there.
Yeah.
Um I was in a band called Dreaming in Blue for a little while that was also back in like the high school days with Brandon initially was the drummer for that and eventually moved up to vocals, kind of similar to Atreyu. Um, the original singer of that band, Dreaming in Blue, his name was Johnny Russell, and he went on to start a band called Cold War Kids. That he's not in the band anymore, but he started that with the singer of Cold War Kids, Nate Willett, who was in another band with Brandon, our drummer Brandon, called the Electric Youth, and it was like an '80s cover band, which it was Brandon on drums, and it had Nate Willett, the singer of Cold War Kids, was the singer. The bass player was Kyle, who was the other guy in the photo that I just showed you for Retribution. That was Kyle was on bass, and one of the guitar players was a guy named Ian Fowles, who was also original founding member of the band Death by Stereo, as well as currently is Eagle Bones, whatever, in Aquabats.
That's crazy.
Wild. And well, actually, I could take it even if I would step out even a little bit further. That band Death by Stereo, the original drummer, Jared Alexander, is now the drummer for My Chemical Romance.
Wow.
So we had
Everybody
a
just
very
knows everybody.
this is all from our high school too. All these
That's
people
so
went to
crazy.
Esperanza High School in Yorba Linda, California. Within about the same 4 years, we were all in and out of this school and all became friends, and all just ended up going on and becoming successful in the music industry.
That's awesome. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's really crazy. I mean, I think somebody actually did like a documentary on it because it's pretty wild when you put all the connections together of how many
Right.
people. And there's even more to it than that, but like that's the basic gist of the majority of people. There's more people that went on to do other famous things too.
Yeah. Did you think Atreyu would still be around this many years later?
Not. I can't really say yes or no. It's one of those things where like
Yeah.
I remember when we were recording The Curse back in 2004, and somebody interviewing me and being like, "What do you think Atreyu's going to be in 5 years from now?" I'm like, I have no idea. I don't even know what that would look like, And
Right.
here we are, and it's been 22 years now, and
Right.
we've released our eighth full length album. I think it is now. I lose track. It's gotten to the point where I've lost track. I don't even know. There's so many songs and so many
Right.
tours and done so much. And, a lot of us are in our late 30s, early 40s now and married. And some, everyone in our band's married. Some of them have kids. And it's a totally different world for
Right.
Atreyu.
Do you have a favorite memory from over the years?
Oh man, there's so many. There's been some just like cool moments, where, you could feel like a shift in our career happen where you could feel that like that level up, that almost kind of like, almost like little winnings of the lottery kind of thing. Where you're like, oh my God, I won the lottery. Like, holy crap, this is happening. I can't believe this is real kind of moments.
Yeah.
I mean, there's I guess the first one on like a smaller scale was like, we just released I think this was like our second EP. It's called Fractures in the Facade. Is that I have it over here? I was like, maybe I have one sitting here. It's called Fractures in the Facade, Your Porcelain Beauty. And we paid for it ourselves. Everything we'd done up to that point, we paid for it ourselves. We didn't have a record label or anybody backing us. And I remember we were playing a show, I think it was with a band called Botch, if I remember correctly, at Chain Reaction in Orange County, California, which is kind of an infamous, a famous venue now for like punk rock metal shows with such indie shows. And I remember us being on stage and we'd kind of put everything we got into this. And I remember Alex turning to me right before we started playing. Like we were just like about 30 seconds out from like, all right, the show starts, we start playing. And like, we hadn't had any like great success or anything. And like, nothing had really happened. We were just kind of like spinning our wheels. And he turns to me and he's like, dude, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something along the lines like, man, like we've put everything we got into this, dude. And like, if this doesn't work, like if this show, like things don't go off, like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I guess we kind of throw in the towel. And I turned to him and I was like, man, what I said, I was Alex, like, don't worry, dude, you know how we do this. And literally he turned around, we counted in the first song and the crowd went nuts. And we were like, holy shit, like it's working. Like it worked. And like, from there, it kind of like things started kind of snowballing. Like we started feeling more things happening. So that was probably the first like, holy shit, like, I think we might be able to do this moment.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. I still remember it pretty well. It gets me
Yeah.
emotional a little bit when I think about it.
How old were you when you first picked up a guitar?
I was 12, about 12 and a half years old. I was in seventh grade at the time. This is like in 1994.
What inspired you to play guitar?
It kind of started with, I mean, there's kind of several elements to it, but I mean, one is it was first day of seventh grade. And I was I can't remember if it was my history class or language arts class, but I was in this class and every person in the room was paired off. All the desks were in sets of two next to each other. And I was sitting in the back right corner of the class with the guy who sat next to me to the left was a guy named Brian Kelly. And he's known of any, he's not famous or nothing, never became super good or anything, but he played drums and he just started playing drums. And he, kind of kept talking about it all the time, how much he loved playing drums, and got to a point where he's like, dude, like, like it's so much fun. You love music too. Like you should play an instrument or something, like maybe play guitar or something like that. And we can we could start a band or jam or something like that. And I was like, okay. And I was like, at the time I was really into Green Day. I really liked stuff of the 90s, but Green Day was
Yeah.
like the number one thing that really resonated with me. And I remember seeing Green Day on TV for the first time, seeing the Basket Case video on MTV, and just being like, holy shit, like this is so cool. The aesthetics of it like just resonated with me. And Billy Joe is this kind of like little short green-eyed guy who liked to play guitar and loved the color green. I'm like, I'm a little short green-eyed guy who like likes to play the, likes the color green and stuff. I was like, I just felt like I could relate to them, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of inspired me to like pick up a guitar and like try to be kind of like Billy Joe. A lot of the girls at school would talk about how they thought he was attractive and stuff. I'm like, oh, like maybe this is my in. Like maybe this is what'll make girls like me, if I become a famous guitar player or something. So I kind of went from there and started I went and rented a guitar from this place that I eventually called the Music Lab, that I took guitar lessons at for the first 3 years of my career. And I had to rent a guitar at first because I didn't have one. I didn't have any money or anything. So I did that, and then my parents took me to a guitar shop where I picked out my first guitar and put it on layaway. I had to slowly pay it off myself, and eventually got this guitar and kind of went from there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What has been some of your primary inspirations while creating new music?
For me, the 80s were like a huge inspiration. So many things about it, the aesthetic of it all, the musicianship, just the tone of the recordings and just the way lyrics were written. And it's just the 80s, nothing sounds like the 80s. The 80s sound like the 80s. And like, it's just so cool. I just loved everything about it. It was just so fun. Like everything about it was so over the top and so fun. And everybody was so good at what they did. Like if you played guitar, you had to be insanely good at guitar. And if you sang, you had to be insanely good. Like you couldn't just be okay and get by. Like everybody was incredible. And I just loved that element of it. It just was so fun, So my guitar playing and the aesthetics of my guitars, the way I would dress on stage, everything was like a nod to the 80s as much as I possibly could. And and it was a mix between that and then, I was really into a lot of like different forms of punk at the time and hardcore music, punk and hardcore music. First punk though, like it started with something like Green Day, which then kind of went into like Rancid, because that stuff was on MTV, and like Offspring, which then evolved even more into like, like NoFX and like all the Fat Records bands, No Use for a Name, Lagwagon, Strung Out, Good Riddance, all that kind of stuff, as well as even stuff like AFI. AFI was a big fan of AFI when I was younger. And then even the harder punk stuff, like the old classic stuff, like the Sex Pistols, the Exploited, GBH, Discharge, or even the newer wave of that stuff like Anti-Flag. I loved all that kind of stuff. So it was just like our sound, even to this day, Atreyu sounded the way that they did, and the way I would write and everyone in our band would write was like, how can we sound like all of these bands at the same time?
Right.
And get it all in there, scratch all the itches, because we lean too much to one direction where we're like only a punk band. It's like, that's not enough. What about all the other styles of music that we really like, So yeah, Atreyu is just a mishmash of everything. That's why every Atreyu album sounds totally different than the last.
And that's awesome.
We don't want to sound the same on every album. And for better or worse, some fans love it, some fans hate it. But we don't really care. We just do what we love because we love it. People want to, people want to come along for the ride, come along and enjoy it, or don't enjoy it, but it's at the end of the day, it's ours. It's for us to enjoy and that's kind of the most important thing.
Yes, it definitely is. While on tour, what is the thing that hypes you up the most before a show?
Well, sometimes a little bit of alcohol, but I guess on the not liquid sense of things, sometimes just watching the other bands a little bit, just seeing the crowd response to the other bands, people kind of going nuts and wild for other bands. It's like, man, like I want that drug that is that energy. I mean, to be on stage and have, even a couple people, or 10, hundreds of people, thousands, tens of thousands of people, like to have that amount of people react to something that you created, and especially in the moment where you're like, you're not something that you created, but then when you're performing it and you're in that moment and people are connecting with you and singing along, like in that moment, it's such a wild thing. It's such a unique experience to be able to be on stage, and like when you sing that lyric, to have, you know, thousands of people sing it back to you at the same time, like it just, there's nothing else like it, you know.
Yeah.
And just that, you know, watching other people get a hit of that drug right before we're supposed to go up, it's like, oh man, like especially watching the headliners, if you're not headlining and you're watching the bigger band do their thing to an even bigger crowd, you're like, oh man, like I want that, I want to be at
Right.
their level so I can get that quality of the drug.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Um, what do you like to do on your free time? Do you play video games, watch TV, movies?
um Lately I've been building a lot of Legos. I have kind of an
Oh,
elaborate
Legos are awesome.
yeah, I've, in particular though, I mean, I'll just show you. I like building pirate ships.
Oh my God, that's so dope.
I have kind of a ridiculous amount of them.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, you can kind of see they're all kind of different. Some of them kind
Right,
of are like,
yeah.
some of them are like Asian style ones, and
So
some
dope.
of them are inspired by um, like Disney and stuff like that. My wife's a huge Disney fan,
Yeah.
and you know, all the Pirates of the Caribbean stuff is super cool. I love Pirates of the Caribbean, and um, just the aesthetics that come along with it, and it's just such a cool vibe. I mean, my room is like kind of this old kind of traveler's hut thing going on. So having like the aesthetics of
Yeah.
all these pirate ships is super cool. So I've been
So
building a lot of Legos.
do you create those
Um,
yourself or do you
no,
okay.
I just buy kits. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're not all necessarily Lego brand, because like there's so, I mean, there's thousands of
Oh
Lego
yeah.
sets out there,
Right.
but as far as in the specific category of like this style of ship, and especially in like ones that are look cool and whatnot, there's not that many out there
Yeah.
that were ever made, as well as what's currently available. A lot of them, you can go on eBay and Amazon and find ones that are from like 15, 20 years ago that
Yeah.
are being sold for $1,000, and I'm like, I don't pay
Right.
$1,000 for a Lego. That's just stupid, you
Right.
know.
It's crazy.
It's ridiculous. So in with that being said, there is a lot of like knockoff brands, or brands that just make other Legos that, you know, they just make their brick sets, as I guess it's
Yeah.
called. You know, like most, I'd say probably about half, if not two-thirds even, of my Lego collection are not actual Lego brand.
That's
Because
crazy.
yeah, because I just limited otherwise.
Right.
And I'm also running out of room. I mean, I have four more ships that I need to build, and like I need to build some more shelves first, because like you can see my shelves are full, like they're
Yeah.
loaded. I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 11 of them up there right now. So I need room for four more.
I know what
Yeah,
that's like.
yeah. It's just, you know, it's hard to like go online. Like it's again, it's like a drug or something. I'm like, oh, I know I need to stay away from it, but like, let me just
Right.
go take a look. You know, I'll just go take a look, just see what they have. Because just what if they do have something new that, you know,
Right.
would be cool? Maybe I could find a nice shelf to put it on somewhere. And of course, I always end up finding something new that
Oh
pops
yeah.
up, and I'm like, oh, I don't have that one. I can't not get that. Oh, and the price is really good. Oh, how could I not buy that? Like, why
Right.
would I? What if it goes away forever and I can never find it again? Like, I got to buy it. So here I am.
I know what that's like. I totally do. Me and my husband have lots of Lego sets and we collect Funko Pops, so there's
Oh,
stuff
nice.
everywhere.
Nice. That's what my wife loves, the Funko Pops, and Disney, again, Disney in particular, and mostly Disney rides are probably, we have a whole like rack of them. Our house has a lot of Disney influenced things, so we have a
Yeah.
whole room that looks like it's kind of like old French quarters, piratey sort of thing going on, jungly pirate thing going on. So in the corner of the room, we have probably like 50 different Funko Pops that are all the different like jungle, like the Jungle Cruise and the Matterhorn, or even like the Haunted Mansion, the teacups, like all these cool rides. They're really, really
Right.
neat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they're fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So you're an entrepreneur. How many businesses do you own?
Um, if I mean, outside of Atreyu, I have one called Rock World Merchandise, which is kind of like it's kind of the front of a lot of it. It's a merchandising company that makes stuff for bands and whatnot. You know, we like, if you go to a concert and see all the merchandise, the t-shirts, the mugs, the pens, whatever, posters. We make all that kind of stuff. I have another one called the World's Greatest Print Shop, which is a screen printing facility. They're all in the same building too. They all work together. So instead of us outsourcing to a screen printing facility to print t-shirts for bands, we outsource to our own facility.
Makes sense.
Then we have Rock World Fulfillment, which is a fulfillment company to do all the fulfillment. So instead of outsourcing to a company to pick and pack and ship out stuff to people that buy stuff online from our band or from any other band that we work with, we just outsource to ourselves. And now we can have Rock World merch as the front of it, and they would take the order per se, send the order to World's Greatest Print Shop, who would produce it, and they would then wheel that over next door to our fulfillment center, who then could put it on the shelves and ship it out. And then last but not least, I have one called Plugins, which is we make keychain holders, which is super random, but we make keychain holders that look like little guitar amps, and we have licenses with both Marshall amps and Fender. Here, I'll just bring up a little thing here so you can see
really
what I'm talking
cool.
about. But they mount on the wall. They're pretty small, so they're good like stocking stuffers and whatnot. And you use my keys on there, and no, I don't. You use like a 1/4-inch jack, like you plug into a guitar amp.
Yeah.
That's what you put your keys on. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, those are so dope. I was looking at that earlier. It's really cool.
Yeah, we have all different ones, all different models. They're all based off of real amp models. We even just released a new one just recently. This one, it's like a murdered out one, a Marshall one that's all black, everything kind of
awesome.
vibe. Yeah, it's super fun. And
right.
Yeah, it's opened up a lot of doors for us, because it's one of those things where most people don't know that I do this. So like when I'm in interviews and I'm like, oh, I have to sing the keychain cup, they're like, whoa, wait a minute, that's you? I've seen that before. I didn't know that was you, because it's so like detached from me a little bit. Like it's kind of taken off on its own thing, where it's all over Amazon, and you can go to any Guitar Center and they have them in there. Almost any major music store in the world will carry them. So it's super wild, but it's fun.
Super awesome.
And it's all related to music.
Yeah. Do you have any plans for future businesses that no one knows about yet?
Not exactly. We have a partnership that we're working on right now with. I'm not sure if you were familiar with Danny Wimmer.
Yeah.
Danny Wimmer Presents.
Yes.
So Danny Wimmer is he does all the big music, rock fest, Rock on the Range, Epicenter. He wants to get in the merchandising world, so we're basically partnering with him and his partners, as well as a guy named Bobby Shabinsky, who is one of the owners of Blackcraft Cult. So basically, myself and my brother and Bobby and Danny Wimmer and his partner Danny Hayes are all partnering up to do a merchandising venture to kind of take Rock World merch to the next level.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's super awesome. I love those guys.
Fun. Yeah, man, they're the biggest and the best in the industry when it comes to that. So it's, I mean, for us, we're super excited to just level up, and like they're super excited too, because they've wanted to do something that's like this for a while, and this is like, they don't understand this side of the industry as much as they love it. You know what I mean? So bringing us, doing this for almost 15 years now, we can kind of help them with that, and they can help us with, even just working with even bigger and more bands that we wouldn't normally have access to.
Right. Well, speaking of Danny Wimmer Presents, I actually had a question about them. You guys played on June 3rd on their Twitch channel, right? Like an acoustic set. Was that out of your on Space Zebra? Was that out of your comfort zone to play acoustically?
Not at this point, no. It's one of those things, like when Alex was in the band, it was definitely something that we wouldn't do. I don't think that's something that Alex was ever comfortable with. So we just stayed away from it,
Yeah.
But since we have to do this without him now, it's something that everybody in our current lineup is very comfortable with. So we're like, let's go for it. And it's actually really fun to do, because being a band for as long as we have, it's like you kind of feel like you've done it all. It's like, oh, this is such a refreshing thing to try and to do, as well as what we like to do acoustically that not a lot of bands do is, usually when you go see a band play acoustic, a lot of times they'll just play the song exactly the same. just on acoustic guitars. But what we do is we like to kind of reimagine the songs
Yeah.
and present them in a different way, in a different feel, because it is an acoustic instruments just have such a different feel. It doesn't make sense to try to play some shredding metal song on
Right.
acoustic. It just doesn't feel right. So we're like, how can we take, a song like X's and O's, or even one of our new songs, Warrior, and like slow it down a little bit and give it a different spin. And we've gotten kind of pretty good at doing it, where we've kind of found a groove of how to do it. And doing that, we get that in particular was probably the biggest showcase of us so far, of us doing something like that.
Yeah. How did it feel being there on their celebration of partnering with that Space Zebra show?
It's awesome. I mean, it's something that Space Zebra, even a small portion of Space Zebra, is even something that we're partially going to
Yeah,
be owners of as well. So it's
that's
um,
awesome.
yeah. So just the whole thing. I mean, for us, it was cool because it was you could just feel all these worlds coming together and all
Yeah.
this excitement between everybody coming together, because we're like, wow, there's so much talent and so much
Yeah.
experience and so many intelligent, well-rounded people, all that bring so many awesome things to the table, all getting to come together. It's kind of like, I use this analogy a lot, and it's kind of a silly analogy, but it makes a lot of sense. It's like the Power Rangers. We're kind of like the Power Rangers, because
Yeah.
if the whole if you know anything about the Power Rangers, for anyone who's seen them before, there's five. I want to say there's five different Power Rangers. They're all different colors, and they all have different
Yeah.
styles of fighting abilities and stuff. And what it's kind of representing is like, there's, whether it be different ethnicities or different like cultures, different ways of life, different styles, that all of them are super awesome at what they do and what they bring to the table. But you'll see they kick all this ass, but then all of a sudden they'll run into this really big hurdle at the end where they're like, man, we can't do this as individuals. But when we all come together, they create this big giant Power Ranger
Yeah.
thing that always wins and defeats everything. And it's kind of like that. It's like, as strong as we all are as individuals, when we all come together, we're
Right.
even stronger.
Right.
So the Power Rangers, they had quite a big message they were presenting with that.
Yeah,
so I feel
definitely.
like we are the rock and roll Power Rangers
That's a
with what
good
we're
way
all
to put
doing.
it. That is a good way
Yeah.
to put it. Do you ever personally watch the DW Presents shows?
A little bit here and there. I've been on some, even just to like hang out.
Oh, okay.
Even a little bit before it went full DWP, when it was kind of
Yeah.
even just Space Zebra, just being on there with like Josh Balls and Wes
Yeah.
Borland and Bobby, which is super cool. I mean, they're doing such a great job with it.
Oh, yeah.
They make it. I mean, it feels like you're like, okay, I'm on this TV
Right.
channel now that has different shows at different times. That have different things different
Yeah.
hosts, and it's just really well done. And even yeah, even Jake. Jake is such a character, and
Oh,
he's
yeah. I
become
love Jake.
Jake. Yeah, Jake is such a good dude, and he's such a genuine, like,
Yeah,
lovable human being. Like,
he
everything
really
you see on
is.
camera is like is Jake. So
Oh, yeah.
it's cool to see him kind of get a spotlight, because
Yeah.
it's always for him, like, Bobby's kind of been more of the spotlight guy, that he like lives
Yeah.
with him, and he helps Bobby out with everything. He's kind of
Right.
like
Oh, yeah. He does.
he's Bobby's like third leg. He really
Yeah.
helps Bobby out so much. And Bobby's so grateful for him, and he's so grateful for Bobby. It's a there's a
Right.
great synergy there.
Those
So it's
guys are
really
great.
they're awesome, and it's really cool to see Jake kind of have this spotlight on him, because he
Yeah,
deserves it as well.
exactly. We just interviewed him because we feel the same way. We
Oh,
feel
that's
everybody
awesome.
should know about him.
Yeah, exactly. Jake gets his own interviews now.
Oh,
It's great.
yeah, exactly. So if they ever asked you to be a guest on the show again, I'm sure you'd be down for it then.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure we'll be on there
Oh, yeah,
plenty more times.
that's
I look forward
awesome.
to it.
So what kind of advice would you give to somebody who is struggling with finding the confidence that they need to follow their own dreams?
Um, I mean, it's one of those things, like, you got to take risks, like,
Yeah,
for anything in life, there's a yin and yang, like, there's a good and evil, there's easy and the hard, and like, the more you sacrifice on one side of something, the more you get on the other side,
yeah,
so It's like, if you really, really want to follow your dreams and your passions and do something that you just genuinely like, I wake up in the morning, I just love doing this, you're going to have to take some risks.
Yeah.
And like, even if you fall down and fail, actually, you're going to fall down and fail. You're going to fall
Yeah.
down and fail a lot, because that's part of the process. And
Exactly.
you got to not be afraid of that. You got to be accepting of the failure aspects, and look at it in a positive way. Have a positive perspective on everything that you're doing, because when you fall down, it's like, oh, I fell, man. Like, oh, like maybe this isn't for me. It's like, no, no, no. Like, why did you fall? Like, what happened? Like,
Right.
look,
Yeah.
turn around and like see what you tripped over, and be like, oh, I tripped over that. It's like, okay, you just learned a lesson. You just learned something that was a weakness, something that held you back. So like, fix
Yeah.
that. You know what I mean? Like, learn from that mistake, and then keep going. And then from there, next time that comes, instead of tripping over it, you just jump right over it and you keep going.
Right.
You're like, oh, wait a minute, that used to be something that scared me, and now it's something I'm like, I don't even think about that anymore, because I've educated myself from that falling experience, and now I know how to overcome that obstacle,
Yeah.
as well as I know how to look at other obstacles, and how to take them on, and push past them.
Yeah. I've definitely learned that over the years. Believe
Yeah,
in
I mean,
myself.
you're sitting here doing interviews
Yeah,
with
exactly.
people in an
Oh
industry that
yeah.
I'm sure you're a big fan of and have been following for years, and now you're, in your own way, you're a part of it, because
Yeah.
you you,
It's
you took a
awesome.
chance.
Again, thank you so much for taking the time there to do an interview with me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things, like, trying to help everyone out a little bit if you can. I mean,
Yeah,
everybody's trying to like make their dream come true and grow their thing, and
exactly.
like, I know how it is. So if I can help out in any way, I
Yeah.
try to.
So I've never been to a festival before. Aftershock this year will be my first festival ever. What can I
And
expect from a festival?
hold on, why what's the
Um,
what's
I've never really had the money over the years, and uh, I don't know. I don't. That's a good question because I don't really know why I've never really been to one, but I'm super excited to go to one.
nice
Finally. 'Cause yeah.
so I mean, you expected a festival. It's cool because there's so much going on. It's such a big
Yeah.
open air area. There's all these different food vendors and t-shirt vendors and cool things you can buy, and like, there's just people, there's just so much energy. Like when you're in
Yeah.
a small concert, there's that compact energy, but I mean, you just take that and you times it by 1,000 or
Right.
10,000. I mean, there's just so many people everywhere, as well as there's a lot of different bands playing. So you kind of get this like, it's like a buffet of bands. You don't just go and be like, all right, I'm going to go and see these 2 3 bands, and that's it. It's like, holy crap, there's like 40 bands playing, and like, I love 25 of them. Like, oh my gosh, how am I going to watch all the, like, oh my
Right.
gosh. It's just such a neat experience, and
Yeah.
even for the bands, when you play, like, or even as a fan, it's a different environment being outdoors, and being on those outdoor stages. It's a totally different vibe. um, whether it be in the heat or in the cold, or it could just start raining, or like, you just never know. You just kind of have to roll with it, and that's
Yeah.
kind of the fun, is just kind of going with the flow, and whether it be the people that you meet, or um, even like, it's one thing to crowd surf at a club show, but to crowd surf, over 10,000 people. I mean, that's a big wave. You can ride
Right.
that thing for a while. It's fun, and for bands it's cool, because those are the biggest platforms to play on, is the festival crowd. um that's what every band wants to do, is play the big
Yeah.
festivals. You want to play a main stage in front of 100,000 people or 50, whatever it is, and just have everybody singing along and clapping along, or the biggest mosh pits that you could ever imagine. And it's just so cool. It's just because there's so many people all there loving it. I mean, you're going to just see, it's like a concert on steroids. So
Yeah.
if you love music, you
Oh
just,
yeah.
it's great. It's really cool.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited. You guys are playing at Aftershock, right?
Yes, yeah, we are. It's
What's
our
one of your live shows like?
it's the best. No, I mean, we bring a lot of energy to the table. Like, it's one of those things that, like, my band was actually practicing last night. We were talking about this, just because we're getting all hyped up about
Yeah.
playing shows here. And one of the things that we're most proud of our own band and what we bring to the table is that, if you strip down all of our production and all the lights and backdrops and all that stuff, you did that with any band. If you took all the bands on this festival and you took away all their production, and they didn't have any lights, they didn't have any cool stage, anything, they just had to plug in and play, like, what would that be like? What's that experience like? And
Yeah.
Atreyu is very confident that we would outshine most, if not all, bands with how much energy and entertainment we bring with the way that we perform. I mean, we're not a band that kind of picks our spot on stage and stands there and just headbangs or whatever.
Yeah.
Like we're all over the place. I mean, like it's hard to keep like it's hard to pick who to follow with your eyes because everybody's running all over the place. You might be watching one person, another person pops up next to them all of a sudden, and next to them someone's playing somebody else's guitar, or we're doing synchronized movements, or climbing on different elements, or jumping into the crowd, or I mean, we're all over the place. Like
Yeah.
we just like we're attention whores. We're up there. We're just like we're gonna get your attention, and we're not gonna lose it, and we're gonna entertain the shit out of you, whether you like it or not.
Well, I'm excited to see you guys play live.
Yeah, it's
I'm
gonna be fun. It's
excited
gonna be
for
really
it
fun.
in general.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. I can promise you that.
Well, that's all the questions I have. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
no problem. Well, I hope you have a good one.
Thank you. You too. I'll be looking forward to checking this out when it comes
Oh
out and
yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah, hopefully within the next few days.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, thank you. Good luck
Thank
with the
you
rest of your
again.
interviews and stuff, and I'll see you later.
Hell yeah. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.